All right, good morning. Karibu sana to Morning Cafe. Kama kawa, kama dawa. Tuko hapa every morning 6 a.m. just to light up your day. My name is Freddy Ndemuli. How hot is the coffee where you are?
I'm usually Stanley Ringita. It's a wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day to you. And tutakuwa nawe all the way to 10 a.m. Quite a number of activities that are going to be there. And real quick, just to tell you what you're going to be seeing before tuingie kwa the dailies on State of the Nation.
All right, we'll be having MP for Nyeri Town, Dan Maina. Beatrice Alachi unfortunately will not make it, but we'll have Dan Maina on set to discuss some of the things, including some of the big stories on the dailies. Uhuru's name is back.
Oh, yes.
On the dailies.
And the interesting events that are going to be there today as well.
Beauties in studio, I tell you. Something to look forward to.
Oh, yes. The Miss Universe Kenya 2024. Stick around for this. This particular Miss Universe is upcoming, so we're going to be having the contestants right here.
All right.
Just getting to know. Are there butterflies in the stomach?
I cannot miss this one.
On something that you should also not miss, tunakufunza some culinary skills on Tasty Wednesday. Chef Brian will be in the kitchen with us. So usikose hiyo. Into the dailies.
Uhuru hand in Ruto Raila cabinet deal. This is the latest twist in this discussion. So yes, now Uhuru's name makes it back. And we have the image of the fourth president of the republic on the front page. He's also there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Raila, Uhuru asked me to reach out to Ruto. But the big headline is, you are on your own over high power bills. That's a big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation.
Bank loans shrink by 200 billion cash shillings as interest rates soar.
Matters business.
Yes.
Raila achanganya Kalonzo. Aha, story nyingine hapo kubwa kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. This is a very long one.
I'm right to work with Raila. Ruto fires at his critics.
And he appears to be struggling to justify his latest actions. On the People Daily, sweet deal ends up in 2.4 billion shilling tears. Matters scamming in Kenya. Also the image of Kawira Mwangaza, the beleaguered, besieged governor of Meru County on the front page. Will be telling you why. Across the border in Uganda, still talking about matters garbage.
Yes, they say the garbage headache. I think this is should be day 3. Day 3 of since this occurrence happened.
Yes,
killing so many
landfill.
People. Yes.
So they say a new crisis is brewing after outraged residents in areas at Kampala Capital City Authority has proposed to shift the dumping site, trash the move, flagging health fears and demanding that dumpsters find safer solutions elsewhere. This came as officials continued with recovery efforts at Kitezi landfill. Of course, there are people who've been moved at least 200 meters away from the landfill, but now there are discussions on moving the dump site to a different area, which will also displace other people. So it's a big headache about garbage.
And it's the same on the front page of A New Vision. Still in Uganda, they say Kitezi, temporary dump site secured. So Naro researcher regrets building near West Side. They have extensive on pages 4 all the way to 7.
So matters garbage dumping in Uganda still top news this whole week. In Tanzania, fintech sandbox to transform Tanzania's startup landscape. Matters business, technology and finance, making it big on the front pages of the dailies in Tanzania. They talk about East Africa education systems facing challenges, and this according to the vice president in Tanzania. That is definitely true even in Kenya.
Kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi wasema hofu uchaguzi mkuu ya tanda. I remember in Tanzania they're expected to have the civic polls come November and then for the general elections next year. So right now the political temperatures kule Tanzania zimechacha kuchacha.
Zimepanda.
Wasema wadau wa siasa wahusisha hali hiyo na msuguano uliotokea Mbeya kati ya Chadema na polisi. Kigaila lalamika viongozi wanachama kupigwa. Yes.
Watandikwa na polisi.
Kwingineko wasema 70% ya waliochangia figo ni wanaume. The kidney donors quite many.
All right. Kuna habari moja ambayo tukitafuta kwa gazeti hili ama gazeti yoyote ya Tanzania huwezi pata na inahusu matters Olympics because hawana medali yoyote hawa.
Tanzania hawana, wenzetu hawana hiyo.
Back home,
yes.
Yesterday evening, the first batch of Olympians, including some of the gold medalists, made it back to Kenya. They were at the airport and they were officially welcomed back home by the CS of sports.
Kipchumba Murkomen, as well as even the PS sports, Peter Tum as well. And they
included some of the gold medalists, Faith Kipyegon there, and Beatrice Chebet who won 2 gold medals there. And this are just some of the pictures from the airport as they jetted back home yesterday. A lot of excitement there at the JKIA.
Everyone is smiles ear to ear, the cultural dances as well. And so this happened yesterday, as you're saying. Then also this morning we were expected to have others coming on board as well.
All right.
Going to at JKIA. We can listen in to what some of them said before Turudi tuambie who is jetting into the country. Tuanze na what Kipchumba Murkomen, the Cabinet Secretary of Sports, said.
This is one of the bigger team group of almost 20 officials and athletes, and it's accompanied by athletes of different disciplines who are here this evening, led by their captain, Faith Kibiego, and the double gold medalist Beatrice Chebetu is here. And we are very, very happy as a country and as a ministry and as a people of Kenya to receive them back home for a job well done. And we really want to congratulate them as a ministry. And on behalf of the ministry and the government of Kenya, we were here today to make sure that their entry to the country is seamless.
This is my first time coming to arrive to Kenya and meet such people. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming. It's inspired many young generation. And secondly, I just want to say I'm so happy being a double gold medalist and Olympic champion for the first time, being a debutant in Olympic and come home with 2 medals, especially gold. It's not easy. But I just want to thank the government, NOC, Athletics Kenya, family, coach, and everyone who supported me towards preparation for Paris 2024.
I could come out after frustration and disappointments over 5,000. I can't say it was disappointment, but it was a little bit traumatic, you know. To have won silver and given a DQ without you're like, what did I do, you know? And then it took a lot of energy on me. It took a lot of like, I don't know, I still don't know how to say it. It's still emotional because it was really, really emotional to me. I don't know how I came out and still perform how I performed in 1500 and mixed history. But I really thank all the people who supported me, my fans, my management, my coach, my training partners, my team here, my Beatrice here, and the rest of the team for talking to me that, yeah, you got this, and it was really good.
And this is my first Kuingia Kenya team. So for me, I can say it's my good morale for me, and I thank God because it's my hard working. So I don't have much to say. Is that it's a big achievement for me, and it's a big proud to see our culture, our Masai come here. So it's like yani ni kama furaha kwangu kwa sababu I'm the first who present for Olympian. So it's a big achievement kwangu. Yeah.
I was happy going there to defend my title, but I didn't make it. But I thank God. And though we were not happy the way we were expecting medals in marathon, especially to swipe the podium. But we thank God we managed. We get 2 bronze from women and men. We thank God for that. The weather was not good for me, especially. And I think for me, I was prepared. I was in a great shape, running from April world record, only women. So my expectation was high over there.
It's about just believing in yourself and just knowing that anything is possible. Mimi nilikuwa najua hapo mimi. Unaona ile kitu unaingia na unaanza kusema hapa leo ni moto. So I just wanted to nilikuwa naingia tu ndani na nijue you have to believe in yourself to put yourself in everyone's shoes and just you can do it too, because gold haina jina mtu, so you have to go and fight for it. So that's what I wanted, and I fought for the gold, and we all tried as a team, and even late in the race I knew it was going to be hard because huko mwisho tulikuwa na watu wana sprint. So I was just like, let's just run as fast as we can or as hard as we can and see what happens at the end. So
all right, once again congratulations to Team Kenya. And very well spoken. For the longest time, we always said those interviews after athletes come back home are the most interesting. But you can tell they are very well spoken.
They've been trained actually for a long time.
Yes.
But then particularly for the two ladies there, Beatrice Chebet as well as Faith Kipyegon. Faith Kipyegon, third consecutive gold, Olympic gold. And then for Beatrice Chebet getting 2 golds there. Congratulations to them. And then Leo Pia tunaona more.
Okay.
The dancers ulienda relax. Tena unamkia Leo.
Emmanuel Onyonyi is among those expected this morning at the JKIA. He won gold in the 5,000 meters men's race. That was a 4th gold medal.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So
Pia marathon bronze medalist, that is Benson Kipruto, and 5,000 meter silver medalist Ronald Kwemoi, just among others.
All right.
Alafu leo usiku, the Africa's fastest man,
Omanyala.
Atakuwa
Be landing back home.
Oh, yes.
All right. Sawa. We're done with matters Olympics. Let's take a look at the traffic situation. A quick one because I know and I can see already a trouble spot there at the Utali Drift. Not really. This is much further back where Outer Ring Road meets Thika Road. There seems to be a problem there. And kuna hold up pale, so it means hata hapa chini hakuna traffic because kila mtu ameshikiliwa hapa juu. Hapo Allsops area. Whatever is happening there, kindly share with us, but it appears it's a big problem. So if you're using Thika Road, do expect a bit of a slow traffic once you get there. Further down towards town, it's much faster. Jogo Road, just the usual, Makadara, a bit of a slowdown there, and the City Stadium roundabout, nothing to worry about. Haile Selassie building up slowly this time of day around Marikiti area. Mombasa Road looking good. The other areas, other roads, I think, are much clearer this morning. Gong Road at the Junction Mall, I think, heading towards Karen, a bit of a slowdown there, but further up, it's okay. The other major tributary into town, that's Wayaki Way, looking good as well. So it's only Thika Road this morning that has a bit of a problem, and that is at Allsops area. Yes, so if you're using Thika Road, this area is a bit problematic at Allsops heading towards town.
Oh, yes. Ongelia, the weather updates in different parts of the country. We start off with Kisii, and particularly because the president will be is in Kisii today. I'll be telling you more about that in a few. So right now it is 15 degrees Celsius. Leo kuna mvua, so hizo rally zote za president tenda very smoothly. Tuangalie other areas in Samburu. Do expect temperatures as high as around 26 degrees Celsius. Right now it's 16. No chances of raining today. Other areas that you might be expecting a shift in the temperatures. In Nyeri, it is 14 degrees Celsius right now. But then this is how it's going to be during the day. If in Nyeri and its environs, do expect some above average rainfall, thunderstorms possibly as high as 60% precipitation, and then manyunyu into the evening. Finally, in Nairobi, tuone how it is going to be. Similarly, kama Kisii, 15 degrees Celsius right now. But then this is going to get warmer, as high as, let's say, 24 there. No chances of raining today. It's just a clear skies if you're in Nairobi. Ukitoka kwa nyumba kama unajipanga, usiogope kuvaa as light as possible and be sun-kissed. That is how the weather is looking like for you today. Let's also tell you what we're going to be cooking for you in our bulletins. First off, I had mentioned this on a news diary. So first off, President William Ruto is in Kisii. So just among the details that he's going to be doing today, just talking to the residents on his plan. He's expected to, among others, launch the housing projects, roads, as well as the rural electrification and renewable energy cooperation power connectivity projects. There was a photo yesterday of him at Kyoko Posho Mill, and he was particularly launching this particular project. Yeah, and guys were like, ulienda Kisii ku launch Posho Mill. On a light note for that. Something else that we also do expect, the cabinet handover. This is something that has been happening since Monday, so we do expect it to also happen today. We'll be telling you as you continue during the day which dockets will be happening. So the ceremonial handing over process to the newly sworn in cabinet secretaries in various ministries who have assumed office will continue. This process will see outgoing CSs brief and handover files relevant to the ministry. Now, to the next page, this might just form the biggest news of today. Senate Speaker Amason Kingi has called for special sitting today at noon for the consideration of the resolution by Meru County Assembly to remove from office by way of impeachment Governor Kawira Mwangaza. So this matter will be the only business of the day, and thereafter the House shall stand adjourned until Tuesday, the 3rd of September. They had begun actually their recess on Thursday last week. And just the fact that this particular consideration came up, it altered the calendar of the Senate. So we wait to see in this particular special sitting what is going to be deliberated upon. On the next page, it is the 14th of every month, and you know what that means. It is EPRA reviewing of fuel prices. The last time EPRA did this, they reduced the petroleum prices by a bob, 1 Kenya shillings. So leo pia tutaona kama itakuwa unategeanga uone kama inaongezeka na 1 bob ama inapunguka na 1 bob. And finally, on the final page, something we had also alluded to earlier, we're going to be having at least 8 Kenyan athletes arriving in the country. They're expected to be arriving as early as 6 a.m. today. This include 800-meter men's gold medalist Emmanuel Wanyonyi, men's 5,000-meter silver medalist Ronald Kwemoi, and then in the evening, Ferdinand Omanyala will be among other athletes making the return to the country. That is as far as our news diary goes. Right now, though, tuangalie Today in History.
On the 14th of August 2022, a fire ripped through a packed Coptic Orthodox church during morning services in Egypt's capital, quickly filling it with thick black smoke and killing 41 worshippers, including at least 10 children.
It's exactly 18 minutes past 6. Quick look at the dailies. Uhuru hand in Ruto, Raila cabinet deal, and that's a big headline on the front page of the Standard this morning. The name of the 4th president of Kenya coming back to the front pages. His image there as well. And these are the intrigues. In spite of saying President William Ruto was the one who sought a deal between government and opposition, Raila Odinga yesterday claimed it was President Uhuru Kenyatta who intervened to save the country. Now, which is which? Mara, oh, it's the president who came kneeling.
Oh,
now,
Mara.
it's, anyway, oh. Wacha baba itwe baba. And he says, when the country was burning, Uhuru called me and told me to talk to Ruto for the country's sake. I believe in dialogue because it's the only way that can save our country. I was ready to dialogue with William Ruto because he is my friend. That's Raila Odinga being quoted there. And that's a big story, big discussion this morning. Another.
Pale chini.
Hey. Ruto hints at a return of aspects of finance bill. So we might see a return of this. Discussions about some of the provisions in the finance bill 2024. Itarudi.
Yes.
Now the president already saying is challenging MPs to pass tax laws when they are presented in the House so that revenue can be generated to start or complete development projects. What do you think? Another highlight, Jumwa in court over 215 million shilling property debt. She was buying a house worth 250 million after she became CS.
Kuna shule,
some figures are mind-boggling.
na kuna shule around pali yuko bado hawana
anyway,
the necessary things.
Let's go to the usual highlights on the top strip, and by usual I mean Gachagua. MP's new plot to cut Gachagua down to size. It's there on the front page. So Gachagua stories zake haziishi.
Because the papers unakuwa wametenga a slide just in case.
Unaweka tu picha ya Gachagua and then you wait for what
wait
angle
for the
will
headline.
come. Africa CDC says Mpox an emergency. Mpox inakuja. Kengen eyes power storage facility, and finally Man City seek more EPL glory. On the back page they have a story about Eliud Kipchoge. He says Paris Olympics was good despite pain. That's the back page of the Standard today.
Right. Tuangalie gazeti la Daily Nation. A number of headlines there. First off, you're on your own over high power bills, and they are too hot to handle. Kenyans will have to dig deeper into their pockets to purchase electricity. The National Assembly last year launched an investigation into the high cost of power and tasked a committee chaired by Mwala MP Vincent Musyoka to present a report in 120 days on how to caution consumers. However, a year later, there's no clear roadmap on how to bring down power prices. That is on pages 4 and 5. And they say the House team has gobbled up millions in allowances. A whole year later, wanakaa chini, pesa allowances you're sitting, bado hakuna kitu inaonekana from those meetings. On the bottom there, they have made space for very important conversations. First off, as you're saying, the face of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua Naik, and then you wait for that right angle. The angle that Daily Nation goes with today, Ruto Gachagua allies plan separate meetings. The political rift in Mount Kenya region continues to widen, with Ruto and Gachagua allies now planning separate retreats. It is on page 7. Into health matters, NHIF warning to patients with chronic illnesses, and they should seek care at facilities with comprehensive contracts with the agency to avoid out-of-pocket payments. Into education, state moves to forestall looming teachers' strike. And the newly appointed Labour CS, Alfred Mutua, has met with NAT leaders regarding the implementation of Phase 2 of the 2021-2025 CBA. And another interesting story on the top strip, Uhuru asked me to reach out to Ruto. It's on page 6. But as we flip the page to the back page, they say Treasury defends offering investors tax exemptions. One of the firms is enjoying an incentive of 10% corporate tax instead. There's a quote there by the PS of Treasury, Chris Kipto. In the agreement, the government committed to provide the necessary incentives to facilitate the company to manufacture galvanized wire. They talk about exemptions of the Special Operating Framework Agreement, that is SOFA. That is just a nutshell of Daily Nation. On to the next paper.
Matters Business. Bank loans shrink by 200 billion shillings as interest rates soar. They say 138.8 billion drop booked in 2 months to March alone. Reduced lending signals lower pace of investment. The high rates means watu wengi hawataki loans. It's too expensive. Public servants to be allowed transfer of pension on exit is another story there on the front page of the Business Daily.
On the ticker.
Yeah, value of Kenya tea exports to Pakistan up 11% on demand. Elsewhere, Dan Maina eyeing 3 billion shillings pay to parents. Equity insurance business sparks talent, and finally Eurobond yields up to finance bill jitters. Those are just some of the business-linked highlights on the front page of the Business Daily.
From Business Daily kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, masuala ya siasa, Raila changanya Kalonzo. Sema kiongozi wa Wiper Kalonzo Musyoka amejipata katika hali tata kisiasa kuhusu iwapo akatize uhusiano wake na kiongozi wa ODM Raila Odinga au aendelee kukaa naye kwa matumaini kuwa ataunga azma yake ya urais mwaka 2027.
Hapo ni ngumu hata yeye sasa. Kalonzo amechanganyika.
Hiyo ni expectations nyingi.
Pale juu habari kuu pale, Seneti kuwa na kikao maalum leo. It's one of the big stories today. Yes. The Senate will have a special sitting. Itasikiza madai ya MCAs wa Meru dhidi ya Gavana Mwangaza walipopitisha hoja kumtimua. So yes, the Senate is on recess, but they have to hold a special sitting because of this. So that's something big. Yeah. It's going to happen from 2:30 in the morning. Another quick highlight there, mpasuko wazidi mlimani. Wandani wa Ruto na Gachagua wapanga mikutano tofauti ya kuhubiri amani.
Something interesting that for those who are still following up on the US elections, I woke up very early yesterday to listen to this.
Oh, you did listen to the X Space?
Some bits of it. Trump adai alizimiwa mtandao. So mdahalo baina ya Trump na mmiliki wa X Elon Musk ulifanyika dakika 45 baadaye. It went on for about 3 hours. Began around 3 a.m.
So you're saying he couldn't connect? He didn't have proper connection.
Oh yes, but then it went smoothly. Yeah, just building up his campaign really. Okay.
This is a very wordy headline.
Yes,
to be honest. I'm right to work with Raila. Ruto fires at his critics. Okay, President says sometimes the country's interests supersede others. You have an image there of the president, of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And Oscar Sudi has also been very quiet there, but they appear to be in very interesting...
In a whole jolly kind of mood.
Yes, they were very happy with each other.
Maybe walikuwa naongelea Arsenal.
Alafu akari-introduce jina la aliyekuwa rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Wakasema hii hata ni Uhuru alileta. Interesting. That's a star this morning.
Yes.
Finally, People Daily.
People Daily. Sweet deal ends up in 2.4 billion cash shillings tears. They go with something that not many other dailies that have.
No one else has this story.
No one else, actually. Police search for online trader alleged to have duped teachers, bishops, lecturers, and lawyers of their earnings.
Way.
I'm taking a look at these courses, these professions, and hey, a whole lawyer, and you have to be okay.
A con artist is a con artist.
A con artist is a con artist.
Yes.
He should have been pretty good because...
But hey, 2.4 billion shillings?
2.4 is... Oof.
Is that the guy?
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, very
then,
interesting read.
Yes. They also make mention of Kawira Mwangaza as date with destiny. Kwingineko, fake insurance claims send Kenyatta Hospital to ICU. Very interesting pale juu kabisa. White top psychiatrist wants law on attempted suicide changed. Yes,
There's always been debate because once you're caught after failed suicide, you're actually taken to court. They say, no, that's not how it should be. They should be helped instead. But the law is the law. Anyway, tuangalia maswala ya karakacha. And on the Standard, that's a cartoon there on the Standard. They talk about talent drain on one side and treasury drain on the other. And there's a very fat person, the 22 CSs. 22 CSs, yeah. Their size is very different in comparison to this athletes here. And then the caricature of the president in the middle saying, we've looked for jobs abroad and will pay for your flights. You remember the debate we were having yesterday? On the front page of the Daily Nation, they had all these athletes who are running for other countries.
Including Yavi.
Remember, the president has been very open about it and said, yeah, that's exactly what we want.
Kuna kazi abroad.
Brain drain. Yeah, watu wenda wafanya kazi huko majuu.
Na kuna mwenye na sign up with the athletics chiefs. I'm trying to decipher what he or she is signing.
People are complaining and saying that this is wrong, but it's actually government policy. The president has said, kuna kazi huko majuu. Munafanya nini hapa?
In your Standard tuangalie the
Daily Nation, of course, Kawira Mwangaza, Governor Meru County, makes it to the cartoon on the Daily Nation. And kuja nasema, the speaker anamwambia wa Senate, anasema, your attendance of Senate has become very consistent. It's only the third impeachment against her. Na amekuja na guitar. Meru County impeachment charges. Kawira Mwangaza making it to the cartoon.
The owner of the guitar ndio hayuko.
Hayuko lakini guitar iko.
Yeah.
The guitar is a constant. And she's very consistent in her appearance before the Senate.
And finally on People Daily, the same theme as your Standard, the athletes running for other countries. A huge hand here saying rogue officials at Athletics Kenya. And the carrot and stick. So this is a stick, but then it's a money bag. The bag is labeled foreign countries in dollars.
There's a lot of money out there.
Yes, and he's saying east or west, the other home is best.
Is best, where the money is.
Where the money is.
That's a cartoon on the People Daily. Matters Olympic athletes or Kenyan athletes running for other countries.
And I'm curious even from the view, what do you think about this whole fiasco here? Our own athletes, Kenyan-born athletes really,
but let's
running out.
The president has said, and he's very clear, kuna kazi huko nje. He's actually going out every day to look for work for people. Mbona tunakazia athletes and we are not paying them? Let them go and run. But then again, the jury is out there. What do you think? We'll be looking at some of these stories, especially the reintroduction of President Uhuru Kenyatta's name into the debate about the rapprochement between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. That and a lot more, including also the reintroduction or the possible reintroduction of the Finance Bill 2024 for debate. And of course, we'll be also trying to see what next for Kawira Mwangaza, the besieged governor of Meru County, as she appears, or her case comes before Senate today in that special sitting. That after the break. But of course, you can be part of the conversation going on through social media on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya.
Oh yes, the hashtag is Morning Cafe. 2047 is our SMS number. Coming up at around 8 all the way to 10, after some hard kind of politics, tunaingia into some kind of easy conversations. Miss World Universe, the contestants will be right here, 8 to 9. And then later on, we teach you some culinary skills. Tunakupeleka jikoni, kufunze how to cook one of the very simple meals around you. Sibanduke.
All right.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
Welcome back. Time now for a bit of some news. 8 people were shot dead and their bodies burnt beyond recognition in Forole area along the Kenya-Ethiopia border, while 2 others continue to receive treatment after they were attacked by unknown assailants in the wee hours of Tuesday morning. The incident comes just 3 days after a bulldozer owned by Ethiopians was set ablaze by unknown militants. Andreen Kilemi reports.
It is along this dusty Forole Tarbi road in Marsabit County where 8 people met their tragic end, their bodies reduced to ashes after being shot and set on fire by unknown assailants. The victims were traveling from Marsabit town to Dakana area when they were ambushed and brutally attacked. This truck, now a heap of charred metal, is all that remains of their journey.
Sasa kile imetendeka leo hatukujua na hatuelewi nini ilisababisha. Lakini vile tunaona hii ni maneno tu ya kutoka Ethiopia ambao wanapigana na OLF na serikali yao.
The killings have sent shockwaves throughout the community, with residents and leaders alike calling on the national government to intervene.
Kitendo kama hiyo akiwa namna hiyo, kama hata sisi mnafanya vile wanafanya sisi, na kwa vita vibaya, vita kubwa.
Led by Marsabit County Governor, the leaders have condemned the killings, further urging the national government to engage with the Ethiopian administration to address the escalating violence and restore peace to the border region.
We, the leaders of Marsabit, condemn the killings and the lawlessness along the Kenya-Ethiopia border that has resulted to unabated and continuous killings, abductions and destructions of properties along the Kenya-Ethiopia border.
Ni jambo la kuhuzunisha. Ningeomba serikali yetu ifanye investigation ya kutosha ili tujue hawa wahalifu walitoka wapi na ni kwa nini wamefanya vile wameendelea kufanya.
Residents living along the border have been urged to remain calm and maintain peace as the government works on resolving the situation. Andreen Kilemi, TV 47.
Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga now claims that the country's 4th president, Uhuru Kenyatta, was behind the unity deal between him and President William Ruto. Odinga, who spoke during the burial of Mzee Chirchir Masit, father to former IEBC Commissioner Irene Masit, said the retired president asked him in a phone call at the height of the Gen Z protests to speak to Ruto for the sake of the country's unity. Apollo Kamau with that report.
While attending the burial of Mzee Chirchir Masit, father to former IEBC Commissioner Irene Masit, who is in exile after the 2022 disputed poll, Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga on Tuesday threw a spanner in the works on how the broad-based government was formed, saying the country's 4th president Uhuru Kenyatta caught him at the height of the Gen Z protests, asking him to speak to Ruto for the sake of the country's unity.
Sasa ile nchi inachomeka, Uhuru ndiye alinipiga mimi simu. Uhuru akaniambia mimi tafuta bwana Ruto ongea na yeye. Kenya ikichomeka hatutakuwa na nchi nyingine. Mpaka hii tuzime hii moto, watu waketi chini waendelee waliwane.
Insiders in the former president's camp have however dismissed the claims as not true, saying the 4th president has been against any talks or cooperation with the Kenya Kwanza regime that may appear to betray Kenyans. Odinga, while in the company of Ruto allies, among them Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi, dismissed the existence of a coalition agreement between ODM and Kenya Kwanza, a similar statement made by President William Ruto in his countrywide development tours.
William ndiye akanitafuta na mimi nikaongea na yeye wazi kabisa. Mimi unajua mambo yangu, mimi sificheki mambo. Nasema direct. Magazeti hapa naandika siji nini Raila na Ruto handshake, hakuna handshake. Hakuna handshake. Kile tulisema, mimi niliongea na Ruto nikamwambia shida iko hapa. Hawa watu yako ambao wameweka pale hawajafanya kazi vile wananchi wanataka.
While in Kibra's toy market, which was razed down by fire a week ago, Odinga said President Ruto approached him to help him run the government. Azimio principals have dissociated themselves with Odinga, after ODM joined government, raising questions on who is fooling who. Apul Kamau, TV47.
President William Ruto Tuesday continued with his tour in the Gusii region. For the second day, he's setting camp in Nyamira and Kisii counties. He began by leading a ceremony to lay the foundation stone for a cancer treatment hospital that will aid the wider Nyanza region, Western Kenya regions, in combating the chronic disease. And as our reporter Arnold Adidi tells us, the president continued to advocate for unity among leaders, especially after the nation has recently gone through challenges.
President William Ruto continued with his tour of the expansive Gusii region as the youth-led protests in the country subsided. On the second day of his tour, the president calling on leaders from all political backgrounds to support the ongoing efforts to unite Kenyans, emphasizing the importance of national unity and transformation. Ruto, who has been drumming up support for a broad-based government, urging those who may not currently support the idea to do so out of a sense of patriotism.
Juzi nimetengeneza serikali ya kuunganisha Wakenya wote. Nyinyi watu wa hapa Bogita, mnataka tuungane ama tutengane? Mnasema tuungane. Hata kama huyu mjumbe wenu amechaguliwa kwa chama kingine, niungane na yeye. Tupeleke Kenya mbele pamoja.
Ruto stressing that the unity and progress of the nation should take precedence over the selfish, personal and political interest of individual leaders, adding that tribal and sectoral politics are outdated.
Imefika wakati ambapo umoja wa nchi, maendeleo ya nchi ni muhimu kuliko mirengo, kuliko vyama, kuliko makabila, kuliko masehemu.
The president's sentiments were supported by leaders in the Gusii region, including Kisii County Governor Simba Arati and Nyamira Senator Okongo Omogeni.
Hapa Kisii tumeamua lazima tuwe pamoja na wewe kwa sababu ya maendeleo. Hiyo ndio tunaomba kwamba tutembee pamoja, tuhakikishe kwamba Kisii yetu na Kenya mzima iko sawa.
Sisi ndio wale watu walikuwa hiyo mlengo ingine. Leo amesema tufanye kazi pamoja. Watu wa Keroka mnakubali? Mumenipa ruhusa?
The president concluded his tour by launching affordable housing projects in Keroka, Ekerubo, inaugurating a road project in Kitutu Church's South constituency, opening the Kisii-Isebania Highway, and initiating the connection of electricity to households in Bonchari constituency. Tomorrow, the head of state is expected to visit South Mugirango constituency, where he will lead the launch of a Tago market and inaugurate a road project in Nyamira County's Borabu constituency. Arnold Adidi, TV47.
Authorities are once again on the spot after masked men were caught on CCTV allegedly abducting a former Kamashari Award member of County Assembly, Joseph Kimani, last night at his Mathioya home in Murang'a County. And as our reporter Samira Mohammed tells us, the family of the abductees wants them back safe.
David Kimani Mashiri, a 39-year-old man, was abducted on Sunday at his home in the Ruto, Kiambu County.
Siku ya jana kama saa 5 hivi waliweza kumshika kijana, wakamnyang'anya simu, wakazima ile simu na hawakumwambia hata mtu yeyote wa familia mahali ambapo wanampeleka David. Na mpaka sasa hivi hatujui David yuko wapi.
Tulipigiwa simu na bibi Mashiri akatuambia na Mashiri hapatikani.
And 2 days later, his father, former Kamachari Award member of County Assembly, Joseph Kimani, was abducted in his Mathioya home in Murang'a County. According to a CCTV footage acquired by TV47, armed men are seen breaking into Joseph's home. According to their lawyer, Ndegwanjiru, it is alleged that the two were abducted after a court granted them bail in an ongoing 1.5 billion Kenyan shilling fraud case battle between Mushiri and Equity Bank, and that they believe the two were abducted by police officers.
Wametekwa nyara na maafisa wa polisi. Maanake walikuja hapa na wakasema kwamba hao ni maafisa wa polisi, walikuwa wamebeba buduki, walikuwa wamevaa sara za askari, na wakasema kwamba David amehusika na wizi na kupora mali ama wizi wa shilingi bilioni 1.5 kutoka kwa ile benki ya Equity.
Confirming the incident, Mathioya Sub-County Police Commander Paul Karobia stated that they have received complaints from the family and that investigations are ongoing.
Tulikuwa na tukio ambalo msemo mmoja kwa jina ya Joseph Kimani Machiri aliweza kukamatwa na wakora, na tuko na hiyo ripoti tunaishughulikia. DC yao anafuatilia kwa karibu sana.
The family members are now calling upon the government to ensure that justice is served and their kin are safe.
Tunaweza omba ama ambao wamemshika tafadhali wamuachilie.
Samira Mohammed, TV 47.
Police officers and detectives in Kakamega County have launched an investigation into the alleged murder of a 26-year-old man from Shikambi area on the outskirts of Kakamega town 3 weeks ago. It is alleged that the man was killed by people known to him before his body was dumped inside a sewer. And as Violet Auma reports, 2 people have since been arrested.
A somber mood has engulfed residents of Angwete village in Shikambi on the outskirts of Kakamega following the disappearance of a 26-year-old Meshak Matayo about 3 weeks ago. According to the family, their kin left home on the 26th of last month heading to work but did not return. Meshak's mother, Mariciano Ikobola, says that they have looked for him everywhere, including police cells and mortuaries, in vain.
Nitafuta prison sikumuona. Nikarudi nyumbani. Kaambia jirani yangu nipomleko hiyo mlango. Kapamoa mlango. Kuangalia ndani kaona tu manguo zote ziko. Na mboka yenye alikuwa amekulia ugali kwa tu hapo kwa sufuria.
Baadaye ndo tukasikia alipigwa na watu na akauawa.
But in a strange twist, self-confessed murder suspects emerged and spilled the beans, indicating that they killed him and threw him in the sewer. Today, police officers who arrived at the scene with the 2 suspects linked to the disappearance of Meshak had a hard time trying to calm the angry locals who were baying for the blood of the 2 suspects.
Nairobi tumeona Kware watu wanatoa watu. Tena Kakamega tumepata Kware ingine inatoka wapi? Kwa sewage. Na inaonekana ikiwa vijana wanaweza onyesha mwili iko hapa, pengine hata miili yenye watu wanatafuta yote ya polisi Kakamega iko hapa kwa sewage.
Residents have accused the government officials of dragging their feet in the process of recovering the body, despite the suspects allegedly confessing and even directing the police officers to a place where they claim to have killed and dumped the victim's body.
Serikali kukucha kusanya pesa ya risi na wanajua, kusanya pesa ya pombe wanajua, kusanya kwa kituo wanajua hii kituo inauza pombe.
The police had to quickly remove the suspects from the scene to avoid the wrath of the locals.
Tunataka sisi wenyewe tutaingia huko, tupewe kambuti, kulovu tutaingia, tutoe mtu wetu.
Kakamega Central OCPD Clement Babu said that investigations are underway to determine whether or not the victim's body was buried in the sewage or elsewhere, while asking residents to remain calm. Reporting for TV47, I'm Violet Auma.
5 members of one family died yesterday following a grisly road accident involving a lorry and personal vehicle along the Nakuru-Nairobi highway at Mbaruku area. Gilgil Sub-County Police Commander Jamlek Ngaroya confirmed the incident and said the bodies had been moved to the Gilgil Sub-County morgue, while the survivors are receiving treatment at St. Joseph Hospital.
It was exactly 07:00 hours. There was a Mercedes compressor, a saloon car, driven by one Abani from Gilgil to Nakuru. He left his lane to overtake. The other side, there was a lorry which was coming from Nakuru direction towards Gilgil, a Mercedes Actros. There was a head-on collision. As a result of the impact, the 5 lost their life on the spot, and the driver was taken to St. Joseph Hospital for treatment. He sustained a broken hand and a broken leg. He is in stable condition, and the bodies of the deceased, the 5 bodies of the deceased were removed from the scene to Gilgil Sub-County Hospital mortuary.
Now, the government is intending to introduce significant new policy that will, that will require Kenyans to pay for the use of certain major roads in the country. The Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, announced yesterday that it is considering implementing a tolling policy on key roads nationwide. KENHA emphasized that the policy will only be introduced after sufficient public consultation. Once finalized, the policy will determine which roads will be subject to tolls. Among the critical roads being considered for tolling are the Thika Superhighway, Nairobi Southern Bypass, Kenol Sagana Marua Road, and the Nairobi Nakuru Mau Summit Highway. Additionally, the Mombasa Southern Bypass and the Dongo Kundu Bypass are also under consideration. Currently, the Nairobi Expressway is the only tolled road in Kenya. All right, welcome back. Time now for us to get into the discussion this morning and look at the big headlines. Today, very interesting. On the front page of the Daily Nation, you are on your own over high power bills, but that is not our main consideration. What we are considering this morning is on the top strip. Raila, Uhuru asked me to reach out to Ruto. That's a big headline also on the Standard. Uhuru hand in Ruto-Raila cabinet deal. Other stories of interest today, of course, the expected special session by the Senate to consider the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza will happen today in the afternoon. Meanwhile, President William Ruto has hinted at a return of aspects of finance bill. What exactly could that mean? We'll also be touching on a bit of Mount Kenya politics. MPs, a new plot to cut Gachagua down to size, and that's on the front page of the Standard, just a highlight. And for this conversation, we are privileged to have in studio Dan Maina, MP Nyeri Town. Karibu sana. I can see the headlines. You are the perfect person for, for some of these discussions. Well, let's start with the big one. Of course, yesterday, Raila Odinga speaking somewhere in the Rift Valley, in Elgeyo Marakwet, during the funeral of former IBC Commissioner Irene Masit's father, Mzee Chirchir Masit, said that it was the fourth president of the Republic who reached out to him and asked him to get in touch with President Ruto. This is a departure from what he had said last week, that it was the president who reached out to him. In fact, alisema they knelt to him, seeking his help. Now, the name of the fourth president being thrown into the works. And it would appear that it is easy, and this name of the former president has a lot of utility for so many people politically. Even the deputy president once in a while talks about the former president or the retired president. Now we're seeing Raila Odinga bringing this name to the same debate. Is it just politics, or could there be any truth to this?
Thank you, Demili. Allow me first to pass my greetings to the great people of Nyeri Town constituency, where I have come from to be on this show, and also thank them for giving me the opportunity to represent them, including here.
Yes.
Now, the name of former retired President Uhuru, for a long time, is going to remain in the conversations of our nation. Because number one, today he occupies the unique position of being the only surviving former president. And ideally, what position should our retired presidents occupy in our nation? Mm-hmm. And this has been my long-held position, that they ought to be elder statesmen. They ought to be statesmen who literally guide and offer advice to the nation on key matters that have a fundamental impact or effect on the running of the country. And I believe today, yesterday's statement by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is actually the true position. The earlier statement about President Ruto and Kenya Kwanza going to him kneeling was just milking political mileage out of the sad situation that the country was in at that point in time. But I think this is also a very important message to Kenyans. That look, a time comes when our different political positions will have to give way to the general good of the nation. And therefore here we see three of the leading eminent persons in this country, in the name of the retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, in the name of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, and the current President Dr. William Ruto, coming together despite their differences, despite the acrimonious, sometimes verbal relationship that has dominated their conversations, while each one of them would speak from their corner, and especially for retired President Uhuru, who has maintained very rare public appearances and comments on the direction that the government is taking. But the closing of ranks between these three top leaders, each one of them with their own respect in their own light, because of the positions they have occupied currently and in the past, and the role they have played in shaping the destiny of our nation up to this point in time. I think that is a key message for us as Kenyans.
In terms of a message, it may work, but could it have a different kind of utility? For example, in the power play right now, that the Deputy President has been known to invoke the name of the retired President from time to time. But then now, Raila Odinga saying that even in this deal with the President William Ruto, the former President or the retired President is a part of it. That in itself could mean that probably Raila Odinga is using this to try and occupy more space within the Kenya Kwanza administration, and in that disadvantage the Deputy President at the same time?
There have been some very, very interesting imaginations and projections into the political scenario. The Deputy President has spoken about former President Uhuru, retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, sometimes negatively, sometimes positively. And therefore, recently in that space, recently more positively, earlier on quite abrasively. So we still have to come to terms with then what is the real position, the current position, in terms of then the relationship between these two top Mount Kenya and Kikuyu Nation leaders, because we cannot wish away the fact that retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is a son of the Mount Kenya Nation, and he still occupies a coveted position. He's actually loved and adored, despite all the things that have been said for and against him. Again, the reality of the truth of the matter is, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is the senior-most politician from the Mount Kenya region currently in the current formation, whether it is in Kenya Kwanza or even in the broad-based government. And therefore, he also occupies a unique position. And how to leverage these two advantages for the Kikuyu Nation is still the delicate balancing act, without one feeling threatened by the other one. In terms of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Raila Odinga has just stated the truth that has been known. He was the person that retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta shows as his preferred successor, and he never had, he never had any qualms going out and saying this is the person that, in my view, I think should occupy State House after me. And Raila has just gone back to say, I am still in the same position with retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is still my person, I'm still his person.
Yet some of his aides, and I'm talking about the aides of the retired president, have come out clearly and said that President Uhuru Kenyatta was never for any sort of dialogue between Raila Odinga and the current president.
I would actually postulate that the aides of retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta are grandstanding. And this is my reasoning. Retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has huge personal and family business interests in this country. You go to the hospitality industry, they have a presence. You go to agriculture, they have a presence. And name it. And therefore, it will be very extremely foolhardy for anyone to claim that retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta does not have an interest in the prosperity of this nation. Because if this nation was to disintegrate, if this nation was to go on a downward spiral, actually the Kenyatta family would be one of the biggest casualties because they have invested. This is the third generation of the Kenyatta family that is in existence in this country. They still continue to have flagship business enterprises.
Okay.
The aides are grandstanding. I think they are trying to look for space within the new arrangement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you being a member of parliament from the larger Mount Kenya region, there's so much happening, and the recent political formations or allegiances and alliances that have been forming are said by some people to have disadvantaged the Mount Kenya region. Do you agree with that assertion? And do you agree that there's a lot of murmurs from the region you come from, brought about mainly by the current or the newly found rapprochement between Raila Odinga and President William Ruto?
The Mount Kenya region, historically, for Mount Kenya region, historically and for a very long time, right from the era of the first president, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, during the time of Mwai Kibaki, during the time of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, the name of Raila Odinga has been a very sought out after political currency. It has sold politically to galvanize the Mount Kenya region against any formation where Raila was seen to have a political influence over. And that has not drastically changed even at this point in time, but there's some mellowing. And therefore, it is a very low-lying fruit for the politicians, both current and aspiring, to still try to milk some political mileage out of the entry or the involvement of Raila Odinga in the current broad-based government. But there are some key points for me. Is there a Mount Kenya nation without Kenya as a country? And the answer in my mind is clear. There is no Mount Kenya, without the rest of the country. At particular times, the Mount Kenya region has always had to, when the Mount Kenya region has had its son in leadership, there has always existed some arrangement with the other regions of the country to be able to govern and govern well. If I try to go into the first government of Jomo Kenyatta, I would find in that cabinet there was, I think, Ronald Gara in the coast, Paul Gay in Ukambani, Againe in Eastern, in the Meru region, of course, Jomo Kenyatta in Nairobi, Kiambu. We had Gekonyo Kiano in Murang'a. We had Mwai Kibaki in Nyeri. We had, I believe, Odogo Omamo in Nyanza. I struggle to listen. I think it was Nathan Munoko in Western or Osogo, one of the two. So you see that arrangement. When we come to Mwai Kibaki, for him to assume power in 2002, we again saw Wamalwa, we saw Ngilu, he had Karisa Maitha, he had Munyao, he had John Keane. So again, you see the same arrangement. And it is not until, even in the arrangement between Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, we still saw people from other regions. And even in the current, although during the first term of the Uhuru Kenyatta William Ruto arrangement, the Mount Kenya region and the Rift Valley seemed to have a huge dominance, to the extent that Mutahi Ngunyi talked of tyranny of numbers. But in the second term, we again saw some arrangement that brought on board Raila Odinga. And it's the same scenario that we are in today. If you ask me, between the Mount Kenya region and the Rift Valley, which region has given away a little bit more? I would say the president's region has given more in terms of space at the top to Raila in the broad-based government than the Mount Kenya region. But there is a tendency to always think about what we don't have rather than focusing and leveraging on what we have. Essentially, the dynamics in terms of the positions and the influence of the Mount Kenya region in the current government has not changed much in the new.
So the sentiment that Raila Odinga and his people have occupied space that would otherwise be occupied probably, or have taken space that would otherwise have accommodated more of the Mount Kenya region's interests, is not correct.
The cabinet had already been formed. And in that cabinet, we have only the Mount Kenya region has only exited in one position, the position occupied by Professor Njuguna Ndung'u.
What about the sentiments that some of those people who occupy cabinet positions from that region are not really weighty in as far as politicians would describe them?
When I came to parliament, I was not weighty either 2 years ago. Today, I do not know the view that Kenyans have about me as a politician. I will give every Kenyan a chance to prove themselves. If the people of Nyeri would have preferred a more experienced person politically, they could still have gone back to Esther Morugi, who is alive today, or Wanyere Kihoro, who is alive today. But they changed Honorable Esther Morugi from Gojiri Wabogo, who was a first-time member, and in fact vying for the first time. They exchanged Gojiri Wabogo despite his presence in the political sense, albeit in the back rooms, for me, who had contested the seat 3 times in the past. So Kenyans will always make the decision. But what were the young people saying? They were actually saying, we are tired of these same old faces. So in the new arrangement, Mount Kenya then seems to have listened more to what the young people are saying than the other regions. That we have brought in fresh faces, and I believe that is what the young people are saying, that we need fresh energy, we need fresh injection. So what is the balance between the two? Let us give the people from Mount Kenya who have been placed in this position of favor and advantage to serve, to prove their mentor. They are Kenyans, they deserve the positions they are occupying.
The president at the weekend, I think it was on Saturday, held a meeting with members of parliament from Mount Kenya region. Were you part of that meeting?
Yes, I was there.
What was the agenda? Because a lot of what came out from there was probably the president asking MPs to go slow on a proposal to impeach the deputy president. What was the other agenda? Now that we say there's not much to talk about in as far as Mount Kenya region is concerned, their interests are already well catered for. What was the meeting about then?
Number one, Idimuli The conversation around the impeachment, and I call it the imagined impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who spoke about the impeachment for the first time, who has propagated and that conversation and ensured that it dominates the airwaves and the media. It is the people in the corner of the Deputy President. And therefore, to me, this is the big question. And I have answered this in several forums, including verbally in front of the Deputy President in Nyeri Town constituency. For an impeachment motion to happen, one, a member of parliament, or even a member of the public, has to petition parliament. Then a member of parliament has to pick pen and paper and write down, put it down in words, and then approach members of parliament to append their signatures. To just get the speaker to accept for this motion to be tabled in parliament, that member of parliament would have to garner 133 signatures. My signature alone, as Maina Madenge, cannot impeach the Deputy President. In fact, the signatures of the 70 members of parliament from Mount Kenya region alone cannot impeach, are not sufficient to bring the motion of impeachment to the floor of the House until you reach 133.
But
and even after that,
I understand now, so the workings in Parliament with ODM now working together with Kenya Kwanza, getting 133 members would be an easy task, wouldn't it?
Now, how many members of Parliament across the divide, live even in Mount Kenya region, how many members of Parliament in ODM have said, I will sign to impeach the Deputy President? I am yet to come across one member of Parliament. Of course, they say the numbers today, if such a motion was to come, it would be easy to raise the numbers. But when we go to the Constitution, the threshold for impeachment is clearly stipulated. Mental or physical incapacity. The Deputy President, from where I sit and looking at him, unless we have a medical evaluation, he is sober. He speaks coherently. Physically, he's well-groomed. The second one is the issue of the gross violation of the Constitution. You'd have to go to the Constitution article by article and bring out the areas of violation. The other one is a violation against any other existing law, bankruptcy, or being convicted of a crime. So besides the numbers are so easy to focus on and bring out a conversation that you want. But what would be the grounds? And I want those people propelling that conversation to tell the Kenyan nation what the grounds for impeachment would be.
We've seen even allies of the Deputy President being investigated, and this was out in the public, about their involvement or alleged involvement in the recent protests. That in itself could form a basis for such a case.
So we wait for the DCI to bring out a verdict. The Deputy President was investigated under retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Later, the same DCI and DPP went and withdrew the allegations and the statements in court. The Deputy President must keep away from these people who are in his office. He must allow them to go through the process that he went through under the previous regime, and the truth will come out in court. If they have no case to answer, DCI will say, we have investigated and there is nothing here against them. Why? Idimuli, one of my colleagues, fellow members of parliament, was the latest investor in Nyeri Town constituency. He had invested in a supermarket. It was the most affordable supermarket, price-wise, for my people. It was employing my people. I saw people in Nyeri Town go into his supermarket, root it and burn it. That was not the only supermarket in Nyeri town. In fact, there are other supermarkets more central in the Nyeri town business district than Shieni supermarket. Madai is right in the middle. And it is on one of the busiest streets in Nyeri, known as Gakere. We have, I think now it is Ketia supermarket. It's opposite a bus stop. We have a Naiva supermarket. Again, it's adjacent to a bus stop. So who, and I do not believe, it is the bona fide residents of Nyeri town who woke up on their own and went to root Shieni supermarket. There was a complete arrangement and design that during these riots, we will go and raid these supermarkets. Our investigation agencies must get to the root and the bottom of this matter.
The fact that officers in the office of the Deputy President have been linked or are being investigated in relation to this case means that there's a possibility that or there are people who believe that the Deputy President could in one way or the other be involved in the same. That in itself would mean something against the Deputy President. Would you support an impeachment against him if at all he was found to be linked?
If he was found to be linked to the mayhem that I saw in this country, I would. If he was found to be linked to the mayhem that the country went through during the riots by the Gen Zs, where we saw property being looted, where we saw homes being burned, where we saw businesses being brought down, where we saw families being rendered desolate, where we saw people dying, where we've seen people in hospitals with gunshot wounds, I would impeach him.
Okay. Now, we're seeing the Deputy President on all the front pages of the dailies, albeit small highlights. On the Standard, they say MPs in new plot to cut Gachagua down to size. On the front page of the Daily Nation down there, bottom right corner, left corner, it says, Ruto, Gachagua allies plan separate meetings in the Mount Kenya region. It means that the position of the Deputy President is still not a comfortable one going forward. Why do you think this is? And why is there a plot to cut him down to size, according to the Standard?
The newspapers will always have their own headlines. On the day that I answered, I was invited to the stage and told to state my position regarding the impeachment of the Deputy President, and some night meetings that were being held in Nairobi, in a funeral. The following day, the Nation Online carried a headline that Nyeri Town MP runs back to Baba Gachagua. So the newspapers will always have their own words and vocabularies to communicate whatever it is that they want. Today, the issues that I've had members of parliament, including me, which I have confessed with the Deputy President, is that he is tending to micromanage members of parliament and making decisions for them. But in fact, I was very happy. In Kirinyaga, he said, I am in the presidency, I play in the league of the presidency. The members of parliament go back to your legislative arena and play your role. I was very happy to hear those words. And I was also very happy to hear the Deputy President also, in that funeral congregation, tell me that, Madenge, you have a right to be where your people, the people who elected you, want you to be. You do not have to follow me around. I hope he can be able to communicate that message individually to every member of parliament who has experienced that kind of relationship with him. That is the only thing I hear.
Were these some of the issues that were raised during the meeting at State House on Saturday? Because we understand the Deputy President was not at the meeting because he was part of the agenda. Were these issues that you say some of you and you individually have against the Deputy President, were they a point of discussion there?
Indimuli, I know Kenyans do not believe this. I'm repeating it for the third time. That in meetings with the President, at least in the meetings that I have been, because I also do not claim to have been in every meeting, okay? The president has never allowed Mount Kenya politicians, and by extension I would say other regions politicians, to discuss with him the conduct of his deputy president.
Then how come the deputy president was left out of that meeting, if at all it was for leaders from the Mount Kenya region?
You know, there's a question I have asked. The president, on the day he announced the disbandment of his cabinet, his deputy president was not with him. And therefore it means there are several scenarios where the president will meet other leaders or make monumental decisions without his deputy president in that space. There are times when we will see the president in one corner of the country and the deputy president in another corner of the country, and there are times we'll see them together. I would ask Kenyans not to read too much
even when he's
into
meeting
the presence
60,
or absence.
60 leaders from the region that the deputy president comes from, doesn't that raise eyebrows?
As members of parliament, both the Senate and the National Assembly in the Mount Kenya region, we had been pushing for a meeting with the president.
Okay.
As members of parliament. And our request for the meeting did not go through the office of the deputy president. We wanted a meeting between the president and the members of parliament from Mount Kenya region over a number of issues regarding the region. Number one, we have seen the scaling down of the budget. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of projects, incomplete projects that we inherited from the regime of retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I will give you 4 quick ones in Nyeri Town constituency. Rorengo Stadium. Mm-hmm. We've got the cancer hospital at Dedan Kimathi University. We've got the Nyarifo Airport. And we've got roads. Now, we have come down from the budget that had largely taken care of the completion of those projects. In these cuts, we are concerned as the Mount Kenya region to be involved in picking the priorities that will get funding under the reduced fiscal space. We desire to be more involved than leaving it to just the technocrats in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. Because these people in the ministries do not take time to go to the constituencies and engage residents to really be able to pick their mind and their desires about the top priorities.
But I would imagine that the deputy president also shares in some of the concerns or some of the interests you went to present to the president. Was there a particular reason why you felt that probably the deputy president should not be part of that meeting?
We did not say that he shouldn't be part of the meeting, but this was a meeting between, our request was the elected leaders in Mount Kenya region would wish to meet the president. The deputy president, senior as we all confess he is, in 2 years, he has not given or convened a sitting of elected Mount Kenya leaders. Now, in the absence of that, how then does Mount Kenya feel? Because when people accept that you are the senior-most leader in their area, they naturally expect that you will provide leadership, that you will convene, certain sittings, to be able to just get feedback. I hear this often repeated sentence, nimesikiza ground, nimesikiza ground. The elected leaders are also a ground. So, hii ground ya MPs, when will the deputy president listen to the Graud MPs from Mount Kenya region?
The Daily Nation
let me
seems
just
to indicate,
finish. When will he listen to the Graud MCAs from the Mount Kenya region? When will he listen to the Graud governors from the Mount Kenya region?
So he's not listening to you?
It's not listening. It has not happened.
The Daily Nation says there's a meeting. On page 7 of the Daily Nation.
Yes.
Says there are 2 meetings, parallel. Mount Kenya at odds as Gachagua and Ruto allies plan separate meetings. And now that you've talked about the necessity for a meeting of all the leaders. And it says that the allies of the deputy president are planning for a meeting in Nyeri town, Nyeri constituency, I think, which you represent. They are yet to announce the date or venue. There's another group that's not allied to the deputy president that's also planning a different meeting, probably in Mombasa or somewhere else. Which of these 2 meetings would you attend? Or will you attend both?
If the deputy president has a meeting in Nyeri town, I am the Nyeri town member of parliament, I will be there.
Okay.
As the area member of parliament.
Any other meeting?
I am a parliamentarian. Politics is about interests. There are the interests of Nyeri town constituency. There are the interests of Nyeri County, and there are the interests of Mount Kenya as a region. I will be available willingly to attend meetings that address the issues of Nyeri town constituency, meetings that address the issues of Nyeri County, and meetings that address the interests of the Mount Kenya region, as well as meetings that addressed the interests of the entire nation.
Even when it's called by the deputy president?
Even when it is called by the deputy president.
Okay. Back to the meeting at State House, and because the Standard has extensively covered this, and it talks about the change of tack now that the president asked the MPs, according to reports, to go slow on the issue of impeachment. They say that now they approach the matter differently, and women leaders, for example, have moved, who are present there, have moved to kickstart what they're calling women empowerment projects. And this is led by about 12 women leaders from that area. Yet they say that whenever these projects are held, the main discussion is about the deputy president. What other agenda was there at State House apart from the deputy president?
In fact, the deputy president was not an agenda at State House. This is what the president said. I have received information that you people have been looking for me. Mm-hmm. But as you know, the scenario in the nation has been quite hectic, and I've had to have a lot of engagements. Now, this morning, although I am headed to Kirinyaga, I decided to share a cup of tea with you so that, number one, I make you aware that your request has reached my desk. Mm-hmm. But I'm asking you to allow me a little bit of time, because already today I'm in Kirinyaga. On Sunday, I'm headed to Kagame's inauguration. On Monday, I have a meeting with my new cabinet. On Tuesday, I'm headed to Kisii. So after that, I am looking for the time for us to come.
There'll be another meeting.
And have a meeting.
Okay.
So today, I just wanted to bring down the anxiety that you could be having, that maybe the people you sent, the message that you sent to me has not reached me, or I am not bothered about your concerns. And that was it.
Did he talk about, did he ask the MPs to, did he make any mention of the imagined impeachment?
The president spoke and said, you know, in my position in leadership, I hear quite a lot. Sometimes this position is unenviable because my ears have to receive a lot of things. But I would like us to have a session where I listen. My purpose of this meeting was to share a cup of tea with you, confirm to you that your request for a meeting has reached my desk. It is not that I have declined, It's only that, you know, my diary has been quite full. Please allow me a couple of days.
Did he probably go further and say about anything more about what he had had, now that he had had a lot of things? Because all the reports say, and even here is quoted as saying, the president was between a rock and a hard place because he wanted to appease the MPs and the electorate, who seemed inclined with Gachagua, as witnessed during the tour, but that he pronounced himself and told MPs on that issue of the impeachment, just put it to a halt.
You know, the president said, he told us, you know, among the rumors that are flying left, right, and center, as my team, I would request that you do not fuel the rumors. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
The rumors are many. There is the rumor about him having gone to Raila kneeling. And now there is the rumor about the impeachment. There is the rumor about Mount Kenya having lost. So he said, among the rumors that are flying around in the space, and unfortunately, in this position, my ears have to hear all these rumors. If you can, to leverage the gains that we have made up to this point in time, because the country has calmed down. Please do not fuel the rumors.
So he actually addressed that issue?
Yes,
directly.
No, he said, do not fuel the rumors. Mm-hmm. So I would be left to decipher whether the rumors were about him kneeling to go to Raila, or it was about Uhuru asking Raila to reach out to him, or it was about the impeachment, or it was about the Mount Kenya losing. Everybody was left to go imagining what was, you know, was there something specific that was contained in that general statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the other issue is about the new working relationship. But now that we have new members in the cabinet from formerly from a party that was not in the majority. We have the former deputy party leaders of ODM, former chairperson of ODM, former minority leader directly from ODM. That in itself says a lot. We've seen what Raila's involvement in previous administrations has meant for those people who have been in that. Even his involvement with Uhuru Kenyatta meant something for the then Deputy President, William Ruto, who began his presidential campaigns from that, and his relationship with the President, that was the beginning of the end. It is more or less the same thing happening this time round. And the question is, are you confident about the position of the Deputy President currently in the same space going forward before 2027?
Allow me to look at the history of Raila Odinga in government. During the Moi era, he did join KANU. Thereafter, he would leave KANU, and they would claim the tractor was swallowed by the cockerel, but the engine of the tractor was still on. Later, he would join with Mwai Kibaki in the Grand Coalition government in 2002. But by 2005, they parted. 2008,
the Grand Coalition was 2008.
No,
after the
Government of National Unity. Government of National Unity. Or it was it the
Rainbow
Government
Coalition,
of National
the
Unity?
Rainbow Coalition.
The Rainbow Coalition. That's what I mean. In 2002, they would sweep into power with Mwai Kibaki. In 2005, they would part ways after the defeat of the Constitution in the 2005 referendum. Thereafter, they would team up with Uhuru Kenyatta under the arrangement known as the handshake, and there would be the BBI, and, you know, again, we see a realignment within the political setup. No politician can ignore that pattern and trend. Mm-hmm. It is genuine, it is legitimate, it is established, it is in the open. But the leaders at the top are not the same. Mwai Kibaki was completely different from Moi. Uhuru Kenyatta was completely different from Mwai Kibaki, despite both of them being Kikuyus. Mm-hmm. William Ruto is, you know, manifestly different from all the other presidents. So the dynamics surrounding the impact and the influence that retired former Prime Minister Raila Odinga will have in the Ruto presidency, only time can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Are there lessons that the political leaders have learned from the history? And what are they going to do with those lessons? Again, only time will tell. But from where the country is, and here, allow me to address Kenyans. Is it desirable moving forward, looking at the arrangement between retired, the late President Moi and Raila Odinga, the arrangement between Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki that they called the gentleman's MOU, the arrangement between Raila and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta that was called the handshake, the current arrangement between
broad-based
Raila Odinga and William Ruto, which we are calling broad-based. Would this be actually the future of the country? That after elections, the winner reaches out to the other political formations and therefore forms a more inclusive government. Is this the future of our country? Again, looking at the last 3 presidents, it does look that that is a desirable direction. And then there is then the question of how do we craft it within the constitutional setup and the other laws that are governing our country. It is certain that the country is having quite some challenges in the fiscal space in terms of raising revenue to carry out the development that Kenyans desire. And yesterday, Idimuli, I was in one of the areas in my region known as Dongoma in Gatito Morogoro Ward. There's a road that was started in October 2020. To date, it is not complete. And after many visits to the Ministry of Transport and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, I decided that in light of the new demands of Kenyans, I would want the Director General Kura, the contractor, and the National Government Administration to come and explain to the residents of Dongoma why their road is not complete up to this point in time. Because as their representative, I have also gotten very frustrated with the fact that 2 years down the line, I have not been able to get to see this road completed. So I decided they come and personally, they are public servants, they are being paid from public coffers, they come and give their commitment as public officers. In that sitting, the residents of Dongoma wanted the road not only completed, but extended to connect them to the other areas. They had a water project that had been advertised by the National Irrigation Authority again in 2020 that has never taken off. In fact, the tender for that project was not awarded. They had issues about electricity, both for security lighting and connection to homesteads that do not have electricity. They had an issue about their schools. They had an issue about the school feeding program for their primary school kids. Kenyans have shifted back to where they are asking government for development.
Okay.
Remember, we have a reduced fiscal space within which to implement this development. When I look at John Bandi and the time he has served in Parliament, he has been chairman of PAC, he has been chairman of PIC. He has a lot, and he's actually an accountant, I believe, by profession. He has a wealth of experience. And he does bring some freshness in this government. However, he will have to shed away the lenses of ODM or Lazimio and wear new lenses where he looks to Kenya as a nation.
Would you say the same for members of parliament from ODM, that they need to shed their opposition lenses and work with government as well? Because that is a feeling that the workings of the National Assembly could significantly be affected by this new alliance between the ruling coalition and ODM, not even the rest of the Azimio, just ODM. The leader of minority, former leader of minority, is now in cabinet. Yes. Meaning that ODM, being the second biggest party in parliament, has one foot in the majority side.
Remember my question. Is this arrangement actually the future of politics in this country? That literally we may as well go into our laws and declare that the governments will always be coalition governments so that we bring the best brains from the diaspora of Kenyans.
Do you believe that that's the best way for a working parliament in the current setup that we have, that the main opposition party is partly in government, meaning that the majority and the minority leader are always working together?
What is the opposition? And I think that is one of the reasons why in the new constitution, in parliament, we removed the word opposition and went to majority and minority. But what would be the work of the opposition? The work of the opposition is not to criticize what government is doing. It is to critique what government is doing so that the country benefits. So they're saying, this is the idea you have. We don't agree with this idea. If this idea was panel beaten this way and that way, we would have better results. So even the opposition or the minority has a definite role in improving the welfare of our nation. Yesterday, when I asked the DG Kura to be in Nyeri in a village, I asked the contractor for the first time in 4 years to come and appear in public. When I asked the OCPD, the DCIO, the DCC, the Administration Police Commandant, to come in a public meeting and give commitments. Was that opposing the government or was that improving government performance? And that is the way I would look at it, even if I was a minority leader.
Okay.
That what we want is better delivery of services. That it is no longer tenable for the DG Kura to sit in Nairobi and say the contractor tells me that they are on site. So we'll go to the site so that isisemekane niko na fitina kwa contractor.
Okay.
By walking there, the DG Kura was able to say this contractor is on site, has been on site or not, because the work being done. So and that is the essence of public participation.
I'm asking you specifically about the National Assembly because when, at the height of the protests, the first major institution that was affected was Bunge. Parliament. Because of breach, people felt that the National Assembly, especially at its workings, was not. And there was a lot of public confidence that was wasted. And the fact that now you're back, it appears you have cannibalized the opposition or the minority side. Does that mean, or does that give you more confidence in terms of how you work going forward? Because it would appear public confidence in the National Assembly especially is still at an all-time low.
Number one, allow me to speak about the invasion. The invasion of parliament by the public was actually based on misinformation. Kenyans, up to today, have never given parliament a chance. And parliament has not taken the chance. In fact, let me reverse that. Kenyans, parliament and parliamentarians have not taken the chance to go to Kenyans and explain what the yes vote meant and also what the no vote meant on the finance bill in the third reading and the committee of the whole house. In the course of my listening to Kenyans, in the entire conversations around the finance bill, the issue of reject the finance bill in totality evolved in the last 2 days towards voting. And it only evolved in the social media space because in the public meetings and all the stakeholders who presented memorandum and appeared physically before the finance committee, none of them had a request to reject in totality the finance bill 2024-2025. And therefore, there is a disconnect there that really needed to be bridged. I sit in two committees. One is the Health Committee. And in the Health Committee, we are 8 members of the majority side and 7 members of the minority side. When we sit to discuss matters health in this country, It is never about the opposition, it is or the and the ruling party, or the minority and the majority. We are always pushing from both sides. I listen to Dr. Nyikal contributing to matters health in this country. He's always looking out for the welfare of the Kenyan in delivery of health services. I sit also in the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities Committee. In that area, we look at procurement, reservation for the special interest groups, that is known as AGPO, that is youth, women, and persons living with disability. We also look at equity in employment in government agencies and ministries. Whenever I go and I find, and I want to give an example of the last sitting with the last government agency that we had on the table. And the Kikuyu community had 43% employees in that saga, which is a university in Nairobi. And I did say, for this to happen, for an institution of higher education that is in a cosmopolitan area, this is a violation of the law. I am a Kikuyu. Ideally then, if it was about the interests of Mount Kenya, I should have applauded them and encouraged them to allow our dominance. But the records are there speaking. So parliamentarians per se are not about Kenya Kwanza and ODM. It is about the interests of the nation. The other most interesting thing is when John Badi was being interviewed, and he was answering Junet Mohammed, who was in the interview panel. He said, when we place the manifestos of Kenya Kwanza or UDA and the manifesto of ODM and Azimio on the area of industrialization, Kenya Kwanza talked about value addition in agriculture. We talked about using agriculture to industrialize. So you find that the ideas, the fundamental manifestos and ideologies are largely coherent.
So do you expect that kind of agreement once the finance bill is reintroduced? Because in this paper, that's a standard, it talks about the president yesterday in speaking in Kisii.
Yes.
He talked about his expectation that some aspects of the finance bill will be reintroduced in Parliament. It's a bit tricky because, yes, there's need to fund the budget, but general sentiment was against the finance bill. Now, once this is introduced, how do you expect it to pan out?
We need to unpack the finance bill. And basically that's what the president has said. The finance bill is normally an omnibus legislation. It is omnibus because every sector has a law that is underpinning it. And what the finance bill does, it looks at all the laws that are in effect in the revenue raising space, and it tries to amend them, all of them, in one bill. And so that is what the president is saying. And if you look, for example, the taxation on cooking gas, ideally it is under the Petroleum Act. So, and in that area, under the finance bill that has now been stood down, we were actually giving relief in taxation on gas so that it could become more affordable, and as a step
is that the route you expected to follow? That probably it won't be an omnibus bill.
Yes,
it will be particular amendments
rather
to
than
the mother
do
bills.
that, so that then this contention, this heavy contention over one law is dissipated.
Okay.
So why don't we go and look separately at the VAT Act on its own? So Kenyans know today we are talking about VAT. Why don't we go and look at the Excise Duty Act? And Kenyans know today we are talking about excise duty. Why don't we go and look at the Customs Act so that Kenyans know today we are talking about the Customs Acts? Why don't we go and look at the income tax? So in that way, then you find when it is the income tax, really the people who would be voicing their voices, their concerns, are the people who are employed and they have a pay slip.
Okay.
And therefore, you find now the concerns do not contaminate other areas where people who do not have a salary are involved.
Is there a possibility that some of the clauses that were contentious could be reintroduced? There were certain that had even been struck off the bill before it was even rejected. Do you see the possibility that some of them could make a comeback?
I do not think the contentious clauses would be coming back. The reason being, we had already amended them in the yes vote.
But it was rejected in totality, so you could argue that
however, alive. Remember what I have said, that, when I was in Dongoma, the same Kenyans have gone back to asking government for development. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we still have to address the issue of this development you desire comes at a cost, and we have to put this money on the table as a nation.
Okay.
Then, how do we go about it? And in that way, two things will happen. One, Kenyans will begin to moderate their expectations about the development that can happen year after year. And number two, they will begin to appreciate the reality that government does not have its money. Mm-hmm. The money that government has comes from residents in various forms. So I think we are headed for a very busy year moving forward, financial year, the remaining eight or so months, in terms of then, because we still need to come back together and provide a resource envelope to achieve the desires and aspirations of Kenyans.
As we come to the end of the conversation, I'd want you to comment on one thing that has occurred and is on the front pages of, I think, most of the dailies this morning, and that is a third impeachment against Governor Kawira Mwangaza. The Senate has been called for a special sitting. They're currently on recess. They've been called for a special sitting later this afternoon to attend to that matter. And whatever will happen at the Senate will happen. But my question is, you've been observing what has been happening in the neighboring county of Meru. From where you come from, it's not very far. And do you think that probably it has gotten so far to a point where probably a different approach should be taken? This is a second impeachment in less than 10 months.
In fact, listening to both some governors, they are saying this is the fifth attempt to impeach Kawira. Mm-hmm. I want to refer Kenyans to the provisions of the law in as far as handling county governments is concerned. A county government that is dysfunctional can be dissolved. And I would actually urge Meru leaders to dissolve the entire county government of Meru, and we go back for elections for governor and MCS. Mm-hmm. That would be my advice from where I sit. And Kawira is not the only governor who has whose impeachment has been attempted. Mm-hmm. I think Wabora survived the impeachment 2 or 3 times. Yes. Derito Gachagua, the brother to the current deputy president in Nyeri, in I think 2016 or 2015, faced impeachment. We have seen an attempt to impeach 2 deputy governors, one successful, one was found not to have merit. We saw the impeachment of Sonko, we saw the impeachment of Waititu. Mm-hmm. This is the reality that we have to learn to live with because we have put it in our constitution.
Do you think
we
that
have made provisions?
The whole issue about impeachment is being weaponized by some politicians, that probably in the issue of what's happening in Meru, probably it's other people outside the county assembly that are influencing this to ensure that the whole county government is dysfunctional?
When you look at counties, there is a misconception that members of parliament and senators are not per se county residents, mm-hmm. and they have no view or new say in the running of their county. In the contrary, they have. We are in leadership. And I think if I was to amend the County Government Act, I would put an organ that allows county leaders to meet and deliberate on development in the county. Maybe that would take away the push and shove between the leadership.
Do you see the necessity of probably amending issues around possible impeachment of a county governor?
There is need to clean it up. And also, when we look at the last impeachment of Governor Kawira in the Senate was, in my opinion, was moved more by the kind of political wish hunt and utterances that had been made by leaders from Meru County in commenting about the workings of the county. And that is what I would call wish hunt. And the Senate, in its wisdom, was able to pick that out and say, you know, despite the fact that we have issues, this seems to be the larger, you know, the larger contributor. But there is need, because number one, when we come to governors and development in the counties, how do we ensure that the governor serves the residents and not the MCA? So there is need for clarity in that space, so that then the governor is not held responsible sometimes by personal interests of the legislators, and that needs also to happen at the presidency level. There is also need to ensure that the governor also does not say, because that ward did not vote for me, you will always be the last to receive development.
Yes.
So there is need for clarity. And in fact, interestingly, in the meeting at State House, that question was posed to the president by one of the Mount Kenya MPs. Then, Mr. President, you know, 14 years of the implementing of this constitution, don't you think it is time that we delved into amending the constitution in response to the lessons that we have learned? I recall that question did come up, did feature. And I think listening to Kenyans and being in leadership, I think there are certain aspects of our constitution that need to be looked at afresh.
What about the clamor for the Ward Development Fund? Because we are made to understand that initially, before the very first impeachment against Kawira Mwangaza, the disagreement was on something similar, the allocation of resources to each and every county, which is yet to be provided for by the Constitution.
It's a lame excuse. Literally, every county has an education bursary fund. So the counties have been able to sit, craft a law to establish the education elimu bursary fund. So what is preventing Nyeri County MCAs proposing a legislation within the Nyeri County Assembly to set up the Ward Development Fund? Nothing in law is preventing them.
Their job is legislation, just like yours. The CDF, there are those who argue that the CDF is also unconstitutional.
You know, the people who argue that CDF is unconstitutional are myopic. In this sense, the governors have been claiming that the CDF is carrying out devolved functions. As a result, we agree, yes, the Constitution did divide functions between the national government and the county government. Some were exclusive to county governments, some were exclusive to the national government, some are shared. And as a result, you find now there is that back and forth. But in our wisdom, we therefore ring-fenced the Constitution Development Fund to the exclusive functions of the national government. The national government serves the Kenyans irrespective of where they are. When we come to urban roads, and you find we have a classification. We have the highways, we have the urban roads, we have the rural roads, and we have unclassified roads. in the constitution, in Schedule 4, which roads were assigned to the county governments.
Okay.
If there is ambiguity, then we need to introduce clarity.
Okay.
And the MCAs legitimately have a legitimate argument. If the national government has a national government constituency development fund, why should we not have a county government's ward development fund?
Okay.
Because we are all elected. I am in support of a ward development fund. However, that should be underpinned by county laws, not national registration.
Your parting shot as we wrap up?
My parting shot as we wrap up, I want to urge all of us as Kenyans to come back, to look at our country from the lens of the nation, not in terms of the regions, not in terms of counties or constituencies or wards. There are things that we will need to do as a ward. There are things we will need to do as a county. There's things we need to do as a constituency. There are things we need to do as a region and as a nation. All of us as leaders must have the dexterity to differentiate when I am Dan Maina Madenge MP, but also resident of Kiganjo Madari ward.
Okay.
When I'm Dan Maina Madenge MP, a resident of Nyeri Town constituency. When I'm Dan Maina Madenge MP, but resident of Nyeri County, of Mount Kenya region and the nation. At this point in time, the talk among leaders must shift from the regions and from counties to keeping Kenya united in one space.
Thank you so much. Dan Maina, MP, Nyeri Town, our panelist this morning. Guest as we discuss the state of the nation, the big headlines today. And asante sana for your time at TV47. As we were coming to the end, I noticed that the other side of the studio is getting very